You look at the Blue Jays, and you ask yourself, how does this team compete with the deferred Dodgers? You look at the rotation, Yamamoto, Sasaki, you have Snell, you have all these guys. You have Glass now, you have Ohtani. This rotation is as good and as deep as any rotation we've ever seen. And you look at this lineup, we all know what Friedman is. We all know what Betts are. These are two former MVPs. Two guys. Remember, Freeman won a World Series with the Braves before he came to the Dodgers and won with the Dodgers. Mookie Betts won a World Series with the Boston Red Sox, and then he went to the Dodgers. And now you have Shohei Ohtani, who's never won a World Series. But when you see these three guys in a lineup, how could you beat this team? How could you defeat a team with a middle of a lineup this good? And that's not even half of the guys that they have when it comes to their 1 to 9 in their lineup. Baseball's weird. It always is. And Jabba will tell you, not always the best team wins. It doesn't always happen that way. Go ask the Yankees. Remember Arizona? Remember the Diamondbacks? I remember that in 2003. The Yankees were the best team. They were the best team all season long. The Diamondbacks had Kurt Schilling, and they had Randy Johnson. Two dominant pitchers. Two of the best pitchers in all of baseball. When you look at their lineup, did their lineup really stick out to you like a sore thumb? No. But everybody remembers Gonzalez when he had that game-winning hit against Mariano Rivera that won him the World Series. I was saddened. Derek Jeter talks about it all the time. When he thinks about losses, that, if you watch this documentary, that was the loss he'll always remember. I'm telling you, go watch the documentary if you want to watch the Captain documentary. That was the loss that he'll always remember. When you look at the Blue Jays, nobody, including me, would have thought that they would have beaten the Yankees. Nobody, including me, would have thought that they would have went through the Mariners going down 2-0 and win that series. But they did. And why did they win that series? And a lot of people were attacking him, including yours truly, when they decided to give Vladimir Guerrero Jr. $325 million guaranteed before the season started. I questioned the Blue Jays on why would they do that. You give a guy that kind of money right up front and give him that kind of contract when you could have waited until the offseason and see how this all fell together. But now when you look at it, this was a win for them. Because if they waited until the end of the season, Vladimir Guerrero would have gotten more money. That's the facts. Think about it. What Vladimir Guerrero has done in this playoff is remarkable. It is remarkable. He is not his father. Not yet. But when you think of Vladimir Guerrero Sr., you're talking about one of the greatest baseball players of all time. One of the best 5-tool players you have ever seen. And you look at his son, and a father and son combination, we talked about this on Monday. That usually never works in baseball. It usually never works in basketball, hockey, football, you name it. It doesn't work. But this man is trying to prove himself, trying to build his own legacy away from what his father has done as a professional athlete. And it's remarkable because if you look at this lineup, they didn't have Bichette. Bichette was one of their best hitters all season, fighting injury after injury. Bichette, who is going to be looking for a new contract in the offseason, just like Guerrero, he is probably going to play in this World Series. How does this change their lineup? It changes their lineup extremely differently. If Bichette is even 90% healthy, and you put him in the middle of this lineup, in front of Guerrero, or even in behind Guerrero, you're adding another potent bat in a lineup that has been potent all playoff long. And it's crazy because if you go back, and we can argue this, Jabba, you're one of those guys that went back and forth. We all wanted to see the Mariners play the Dodgers in the World Series because that would have been the more fun series to watch. I'm looking at this series now, maybe not. Because when you go back and you look at those 93 Blue Jays and you look at that roster and you compare it to this roster, they are extremely, extremely different. And what makes it so much more interesting is when you look at their best player, and their best player was not Joe Carter. Their best player was Roberto Alomar, okay, who was a second baseman. And you look at Vladimir Guerrero, who is a first baseman, and you compare their skills, they're so very different. And you look at, and remember, Roberto Alomar was a young player in 93. He was a kid. Vladimir Guerrero is a kid. It is remarkable when you compare. Now, Roberto Alomar comes from a family of baseball players. Think about it.
Whole family.
Yeah, his whole family. Sandy Alomar, he comes from a baseball family. Vladimir Guerrero comes from a baseball family. When you look at the comparison of these players, and you look at the greatness of both these players, right now the trajectory is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to be a Hall of Fame player. But first, he needs to win a World Series. He needs to bring home a World Series to be in that trajectory. I look at Roberto Alomar. If Alomar doesn't win that World Series, he's still a Hall of Famer. But is he going to be remembered as a winner, a champion? The answer would be no. And that is where I see the Blue Jays in this series. The Dodgers are champions. The Dodgers have won how many World Series in the last 10 years? They've won 3, haven't they? Or they've won 2, and they've been to 3. They've been to 3 World Series in 5 years. You know what they are. You know what you're playing against. You know what Shohei Ohtani is. You know what Freeman is. You know what Betts is. When it comes to winning championships, you don't know what Vladimir Guerrero is. You don't know what this pitching staff is. And because none of these guys, any of these guys, have won a World Series. Think about it. You look at this Blue Jays lineup. Has any one of these guys ever been to a World Series?
Max. Yeah, I don't think any hitters though.
Springer is the only one,
and he's going to go down as one of the greatest postseason clutch guys that ever played. If he keeps going the ways he's tied for 3rd in homers all time.
So they got some trash cans.
So they got one guy.
Still hit it.
They got one guy, ladies and gentlemen, that has been to a World Series and and won. And that to me shows you how unique this Blue Jay team is. How to me, the team that has the most stress on them is the Dodgers. The Dodgers are expected to win. With the lineup they have, the pitching staff that they have, and what they did against the National League champion Brewers. And they won the National League with wins. They were the best team in all of baseball all season long, the Brewers. They ran right through that team. They didn't even have a 1 ERA against them. The Brewers had 14 hits in that whole series in 4 games. And now you're going against a Blue Jay team that was red hot against a Mariner pitching staff that is really good. That's a good pitching staff. Go ask Detroit how good that pitching staff is. My facts here is pretty simple. The Blue Jays have nothing to hide in this series. Everybody knows they have nothing to lose. And when you have nothing to lose, you're a very dangerous team. You're going into a series that everybody expects you to lose. As a matter of fact, betting odds to tell you they're a minus 210, which is a lot. That's high, okay? That's a significant number. Anything over 100 is significant. That tells you that nobody, when it comes to Vegas, and a betting person would take, a handicapper would take the Blue Jays to win this series. And if I was a coach and I was a manager and I had a board up and I'm going to point out things that would get my team wounded up and I would have a list of things, that would be number 1. That would be number 1. We just went through the Yankees. We beat a team that a lot of people thought was the best team in baseball, especially in the last month and a half of baseball. They were the best American League team. They went through one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world, in Aaron Judge. Yes, he hit against them. They still beat him. Max Fried, who's going to be up for a Cy Young this year, one of the best pitchers in baseball. They beat him up. All it takes is confidence in baseball. Jabba will tell you, if you believe it, you can achieve it. everybody sitting here today, including yours truly, that thought the Blue Jays were not the right fit to go to the World Series, I'm wrong. And I'm going to tell you why I'm wrong. Because this lineup has been as potent as any lineup in the playoffs. If you look at their numbers right now and compare them to all the teams so far in the playoffs, they have the best lineup when it comes to average, and they have the best lineup when it comes to power right now. And I'm not talking about Shohei Ohtani's one game with 3 home runs. He's batting .220 in the playoffs. There are 3 guys in this lineup hitting almost 300 with the Blue Jays. It's crazy. And it's it's not comparable to the 93, but there are players, when you look at it and you're trying to look at a comparison to try to bring it to the forefront, this is the best chance a Canadian baseball team has to win a championship since the 90s. That, to me, is as successful as we can talk about since the Montreal Expos and Pedro Martinez and who? Vladimir Guerrero. I can't compare this Blue Jays team to that team, but what this team is doing and the comparable players, when you look at guys that were all world players at their positions, you're talking about Vladimir Guerrero is a top 5 player right now in the league. Roberto Alomar wasn't a top 5 player at that time, but he was one of the best young players in baseball, where everybody was saying that this team was going to win multiple championships with this young superstar that they have at second base. That guy, Roberto Alomar, I don't care what anybody says, he is one of the greatest top 3 second basemen of all time. You look at his numbers. How many guys could you compare to Roberto Alomar?
He's a switch hitting second baseman.
Yeah, I know. And he wasn't liked. A lot of players didn't like him. A lot of players. I've spoken, Speedy, we've had a couple of players on this show in the past, before Jabba in the Mouth. And we were interviewing them, and we asked them, who are some of the most hated players you ever played against? And numerous amount of guys told us Roberto Alomar was one of the worst teammates and one of the worst players to play against. And I said, why? Because he was cheap, and he talked a lot, and he did things. He wasn't a team player. Well, guess what? He was a winner. He was great. So I haven't heard that about Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is what he's doing right now is incredible. And I got news for you guys. As good as Vladimir Guerrero Sr., who did win a World Series with the Angels, and I do remember that, he was never this good in a playoff run, ever. He's never hit close to 400 in a playoff run. Never. Do you guys remember Vladimir Guerrero Sr. ever hitting close to 400 in the playoffs? I don't remember.
I don't.
There's not a lot of people that have had a 400.
I'm just saying, when we're trying to compare him and his father never did this. Jabba, you know this. You played against his dad.
Yeah, it was. They're very similar in swing path and what they do, but approach is way different. But you know, Vlad, when you grow up the way he does, and like, I don't know if you guys saw the story that he did. You know, he's like. It just, everything about him makes you want to root for him, right? And I don't know him. I've never met him, but just from afar as a baseball fan and being able to be a fan of his dad's and then get a chance to play against him and just see how much he was loved by everybody as a whole and just the kind of hitter he was and just the way he went about his business. The apple didn't fall too far. And you see that he said, he goes, the one thing that I want to do is give my dad a World Series ring. And, you know, there's some, you saw the emotion after they won, you know, tears in his eyes. Cause it's something that, you know, everybody always sees, you know, us competing and rooting against us or for us, but people forget sometimes we're human beings. Like, this is something that he's watched his entire life. And now he gets an opportunity. You know, and I mentioned something today on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, about, you know, just the opportunity that Donnie Baseball gets. As long as he's been in baseball and he gets an opportunity, his first time, and he's been in 40 years in this game as a player, as a coach, as a coordinator, as whatever he was, and to get a chance to do it, it's special because this game is so special to us that a lot of people don't get that opportunity. When you do, it hits you. And, you know, it's awesome to be able to have that experience. But for the two teams, it's really, I think you kind of said it. It's like we kind of wanted to see the Mariners because they'd never been there, right? And the Blue Jays, they're being in the division. You kind of just have that I don't like you kind of attitude just because they are in the division. And you're like, what are they really? Are they that much better? Like, what do they do that's better than us? And I think what I've seen throughout this whole playoffs is they've obviously had Vlad, but they've had other guys do things that sometimes don't go in the scorebook. You got a guy like Clement that nobody knows who the hell he is, averaging over like 4.3 pitches in a bat. Like, that doesn't look like sexy at all, but that's giving other guys opportunities to see more pitches. That's getting to their bullpen faster because you get to the bullpen faster anyways in the playoffs unless, certain people. But you got guys like that stepping up, doing the little things that extend a game and don't go in the scorebook that, doesn't have the 3-run homer that Springer does. But you got to have guys on base and the at-bats that go before that. And, I think it's tough to root for them being in a division as a Yankee fan. First of all, I want to see a great series. Carter picked Dodgers in 5. And if you go on paper, yeah, you're probably going with the Dodgers, right? I mean, because that's what it is. And you're going to see superstar for superstar on one side compared to, you're getting Bichette back, but Bichette's not a superstar. He's a great player, but he's not a superstar. He's not Vlad. And then you've got Max, been there with 16. It feels like he always somehow finds a place in. And just to be able to be that leader and be in that situation, you got guys, like you brought up, Speedy, your Mets legend and Chris. And
there's a bunch of them on this team. There's Andres Jimenez too.
Yeah, he's played well. You got guys that are literally, I'll do whatever it takes. Like if you saw the quote by him, he goes, "I'll be the towel boy if it takes us a chance to win." And I think that's kind of where it differs in the namesake of each team is where, yeah, we don't have a lot of the names, but we're in the same position you are. You're not any better than us because you've got all these superstar names. We're here and we're going to battle. So I think it's going to be a better series, and I think it's a little bit better matchup than we initially thought just seeing it before it happened, and now breaking it down and seeing the comparisons and the differences between both teams and where, I don't know how Varland's arm is still hanging. That dude, I think he pitched like twice in some games, it felt like, because every time like you turn, he's back in the game. I mean, obviously he gave up the homer to Judge and comes back and starts the next game. And he's just a guy that wants to be out there. Hoffman, like we talked about on the show, throws 2 innings, which was weird to me. I don't know why at that point he did, but then comes back. And obviously this point of the season, you're taking everything and making sure you feel good at this point. But it's just, I'm excited for it. It's probably not what everybody wanted to see. Now you've got the travel that people are going to talk. There's so many factors that people don't think about in what comes into play. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see, who steps up. I think pitching is going to be, I guess I'm biased when I say this, but be the end all that kind of meets all, because there's going to have to be guys that step up because we're going to see runs scored. These lineups are too good not to have runs scored. I have a feeling there's not going to be very many 2-1, 3-2 games in this series. But you know what? People love that, and let's see some scoring and some homers and 2 really, really great parks to play in. The Rogers Center gets absolutely crazy, those Canadian fans, because that beer's a little stronger there, and they start early when you get into that place. So, and then obviously LA, you'll have the stars out like they're at a Knicks game. I'm excited for it.